what that is what do you do in your profession specifically?
Okay, so I have a PhD in chemistry, and so my personal profession or my career here at UT is I have two parts. I am a teacher, and I'm also an outreach type of demonstration researcher. And so in the teaching component, I teach one class per semester, so usually it's 301 to the intro semester in the fall, and then 302 the second semester in the spring. Sometimes I do it for non-majors, so 304 fall, 305 spring, but I really like the majors, so I'm trying to stay there. And then I also have another component, which is just a bunch of stuff smashed together. And so primarily it's an outreach component. I run an outreach program called Fun with Chemistry. I go out to local Austin schools, blow stuff up, try to show kids that science is fun, entertaining. You don't have to be a nerd to like science. You can just be a normal person who likes to blow stuff up. It's the whole mission. And so I do that with outreach, and part of outreach is actually setting up the demonstrations for in-classroom demonstrations. So if your professor wants to blow something up in class, I'm somewhere involved with that, getting the materials ready, like saying it's okay, yes, you have my permission to do that in class. Somehow I had to okay that. Usually I have people who prep it for me now, thank God, so that's good. But in the beginning I was doing all of it. And then the last part I do is I run a dual credit program called Cambridge, and so that is a school, it's a class that is offered at the high school level, so it's a dual credit, and basically it's chemistry for non-majors, but we specifically target Title I schools. So I do not want kids who are the richest and have had every experience in their life, and this isn't like, no, this isn't for you. This program is for kids who don't have parents, or that don't have internet at home, or they're pregnant. I mean, all of that, those are the kids that my program's for, which is why I value it so much, because I think it really makes a difference, and it makes a change, and it makes sure that kids who are going to be first generation college kids, they're not terrified of coming to school. So that's something I really value. I don't talk about it that much, so you probably didn't even know I did that, but it's something I really value and love doing.
How long have you been running that program?
This is my third year with the program, but it's been around for about 15 years. And so it was started, and basically every 3 years you revamp it. And so you do something, you do a lot of work, and then you let it go for 3 years, and then you come back and do a lot of work and let it go. So this coming summer, a lot of work.
The break is over.
Yeah.
So how hopeful are you of like the number of women in STEM to go up soon, and how much do you think that your Fun with Chemistry program affects that?
Oh, great question. I hope that the number of women in STEM increases always. I always want that to be on an upward trajectory. That's the best thing possible. I think we're going to take a hit right now. We are in a divot. It was going up, and then for whatever reason it dropped for a couple years, and then we're coming up again. So we are on the upswing. I'm a little concerned with how that number is going to be affected based on the current policies that are happening in the White House. Science is not valued there. It's just not, and that's okay. That happens when policy changes and different groups come together. But I'm a little bit worried that there's a stigma associated with it, or that it's being devalued. And when people in position put that out there and make it seem like it's a global statement and make it seem like it's a fact, even though it's an alternative fact, we will see an effect of it. Absolutely. Especially from small town areas that are highly read in like conservative or whatnot, because a lot of times they just flat out listen to whatever the president says, which is totally fine, no knock on that, but the president is currently saying that science isn't important, and so we will see that. What I do with Fun with Chemistry is I ignore all of it. It doesn't matter what the president is doing. It doesn't matter if the EPA is getting money. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to blow stuff up. And so hopefully on the local level here in Austin, I can change one kid a semester. Maybe 2, maybe 3. That would be great. There's one kid currently who applied to be my intern, and I actually found out that he started liking chemistry because years ago, like one of my first shows, he was in the audience. And he liked that. And so he comes and he's, at the very end of the interview, he's like, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know I'm a chemistry major because of you. And I was like, why didn't you start with that, dude? Like, let's start off on a good standpoint here. So it was a boy, though. So I don't know. I hope it helps. It can't hurt. And so if I'm going to get paid to do something, I might as well go play with little kids and set things on fire.
One of our next questions is actually how you think the new administration is going to affect science.
I think it's going to be negative. It's hard for me. It's frustrating because the thing that I like the most about science is that it's all based on data and numbers and fact. And currently what's happening in the administration is that it's not necessarily valued and money isn't being put there. So instead of trying to figure out like what is more important cancer wise to research right now, what's going to happen is, okay, all the cancer budget's gone and now we have to look at something else. And so it's really terrifying when you think about it at the local level. Like, if your mom gets sick, you want to make sure there's medicine to fix her, right? That's really what science is all about, in my opinion. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's great that we can blow stuff up and we can have fossil fuels and we can have electricity, and that's wonderful. But the grand scheme of things, we want to be happy and we want to be healthy. We want to live long and we want to like our parents and be, well, maybe not, but like I want to. I want to be around my family for a long time. And so when mom gets sick, I want medicine. And if the money is not there and we take away all the money away from science research, that affects drugs. Like, not drugs, but it affects drugs that are good for us. And so for me, that's really what scares me. I mean, it sucks that we are denying global climate change, but that's not our problem. I mean, it is, but it's not going to affect us. It's going to affect our kids' kids. What's going to affect us is that we don't have the money to do the cancer research. So bad. That's my answer. Bad. It's going to be bad. But it doesn't matter.
Are you going to the March for Science?
Hell yes. I am leaving tomorrow night. I'm flying to DC. I will be there all day. I cannot wait. I bought all these shirts on Busted Tea and like Tea Public. They have all these graphic shirts, so I know what I'm wearing on the plane. I know what I'm wearing in the march. I know what I'm wearing on the plane back. Like, I've got it ready. I'm so excited. I even have, I don't know if you can see this, but I bought this off Etsy. It is a Erlenmeyer flask that somebody made for me. That was so cute. Other girl has it. And so now I'm reaching out. I was like, can you make that in gold too? I want a gold one. She said no, but I'm going to keep asking. But yes, I'm going, and there's one here in Austin, so if you want to go, you should take part into it. If you're in my class, I'm giving you a bonus point if you go.
This question came from Zoe, and she asked, one of your driving lectures is food chemistry. How does that intertwine with biology?
So, great question. My food chemistry lecture is a little bit unique because the main point of it is to be hands-on. And so it's something we developed to be strictly for 30 students, and I was hoping to target middle school and high school students. And so I did this yesterday, actually. And so I go out to, when it's after school, it's a lot of times, again, Title I schools, kids who've never seen this before. And so, oh my gosh, did we have behavior issues yesterday. But I got through to them. At the very end, I know I got through to them. So the whole point of it is to show that even though our tongue may interpret the taste, so like a sweetness or a bitter or something the same way, what is not the same is the way it communicates from your tongue to your brain. And so some people notice things that are really salty, and that's just because their brain is a little bit more sensitive to that. And so that's kind of the big picture that I'm trying to drive through. The second thing I like to talk about is that your tongue is localized. A lot of people say, oh, there's, you have a sweet spot and a sour spot. No, that is not true. And I know you were taught that in middle school or high school, but it's not true. And I hate that, and I wish they didn't do that, but it's bullshit, okay? So just put that out there. All right, so what you really have are two types of receptors on your tongue. There's a bitter one, and then there's a, I think it's sweet. No, it's salty. It's bitter and salty. And so you have these two, and that's all you can test. And then outside of it, there's little categories that fit in beneath it. So for my food chemistry lecture, it doesn't really apply the way you want it to apply, and I love that question. I would love to take it there, but the students that I do this chemistry lecture for don't have the skills to actually talk about the bio part yet. So I would love to develop that at the collegiate level. But right now it's at the high school level where they still are assuming that your tongue has 4 categories. And so we more do things like, don't tell them, but we do taste tests, and the second taste test I do, they taste 2 drinks, and the first one I add salt to it, and so you're trying to figure out the difference of it, and no one can ever figure out it's salt. The second one is the exact same thing. I give them 2 things, it's literally the same thing. And they're all like, oh, this is sharp, I can tell this is the off-brand and this is this, and I'm like, nope, same thing. And so it's just a way to prove that your brain interprets stuff completely differently. And so with food chemistry, it's the one thing that's not exactly like a solid science, because your brain and your tongue communicate in a different way, unique to the person. So, for example, I did that one for pregnant teens, and they noticed the salt immediately. Like the second they tasted it, they all know, they're like, salt on the right one, it's salt, it's salt. And I was like, dang, pregnant girls, like they got me. So we had to move right to the next one, but they were really good. But it's unique though, because your hormones are different, and so it's a fun one. But I don't do the bio at all.
So is that like the apple and the orange,
Exactly.
onion? they
Oh.
taste the same, right? If you can't smell.
Oh, I can accept that. Yeah, same type of concept. But that's something where your nose is picking up on the vapor more so than your tongue, right? So there's two. It's like the liquid versus gas
Right.
concept. But again, it's just they're connected, just in there. I can't show you. Go through there. Pick your nose, and then you see it.
Do you have any other career paths that you want to pursue?
I do. Yeah, so my personal dream is to be the next Bill Nye. I would kill for that position. That's something I've wanted for a long time. And in my 20s, I would have never told a single person that, ever. Once I hit 25, I started being like, what do you think, guys? Do you think I could do it? And then for me, it was just something that kind of slowly developed. So as soon as I got this position here at UT, I fought for the outreach position. And so with that, I was able to develop demos. And so now I have, and this is something, again, I've been working toward, but every month I have 3 segments that I do on different stations. So 2 of them are local, 1 is national. And so I have to drive up to Dallas once a month and do this big demonstration. Then I drive back and teach our class. So once a month I'm always exhausted in class and I'm a zombie walking around, but it's fine. But I'm doing that to try to get there. Like, I want to be the Bill Nye. I want to be the person who, there's like a little show that you'd watch in elementary school, but you don't groan when Bill Nye comes on. You're like, oh, it's Kate the Chemist. Like, I want to see that. That's cool. So that's kind of my goal. Secretly, I would love to be the voice of reason. So when somebody makes a crazy policy, I would love for Fox News to call me up and be like, hey, Kate, what do you think about that? And be like, well, let me tell you, I think that's crazy. Although Fox News would never call me, it'd be the other side. But that's kind of my goal. I want to be out there. I would love to show that I'm a chemist, that I'm female, that I am not an old troll. Like, I can actually wear heels and boots and have fun and be semi-cute every once in a while when I try hard. Like, that's the goal, is to try to show that you can be female, you can be semi-cute, you're not a nerd with a bow tie. I just hate that. And fat. They always show women scientists are fat, apparently. I'm like, what? No. Even the girls in the Big Bang Theory, they wear padding. Like, they make them wear padding, yeah. Isn't that terrible? Except for Penny, the one who's supposed to be cute and pretty and dumb, right? So she's cute, pretty, and dumb, or you're smart and fat. It's like, what? He hears these tangents a lot, so I apologize. But
What struggles did you have getting to where you are now?
Well, so twofold. A PhD is just a challenging thing to get. Any type of advanced degree, an MD, anything, dental, pre-law, anything you're going to do is going to be challenging after your bachelor's. So I would say surviving grad school was really, really, really hard. It was really hard. And so you have to understand that in chemistry, at least, and a lot of the hard sciences, so I'd put bio and physics in there as well, in grad school, 10% of what you do works on average. So that means 90% of the 5 years that you're here is a failure. And so mentally, that's very, very difficult. And so there are certain people here that just don't make it because they just can't do that. They can't handle it. Intellectually, they totally deserve a PhD, and they could absolutely get that mentally, but they weren't able to physically go through the motions for 5+ years. Sometimes it takes 7 years. I was about 5.5. So that was just hard, just literally surviving and getting through there. And what you'll notice too is at the end of grad school in your last year, females especially get real thin. They get stressed out and they like stop eating, and it's just, you just notice it. And so when you see the 5th year girls walking around, you can just see they've dropped weight. And so that's what I do now, is reach out to them and go, hey, let's go eat a burger. Let's go talk. How you doing? Like, what's going on? I remember looking like that. You need some food. So, and so just things like that. It's really hard, just surviving. And that's across the board, but I'm female, so I can relate with the fact that women get stressed out. But you can also go the other way. You get stressed out and eat a lot, and so you can balloon up. So you see both of those. Mm-hmm. Usually with men, though, they just drink. I know I'm stereotyping, but that's usually what happens. The women get stressed out, the men kind of drink at home, and they do fine with it. Again, stereotyping. But for me, it was just surviving. That was hard. I was stressed. The second thing is being a female in STEM is challenging. It just is. You are expected to be not as smart because your little woman brain can't work as well. Obviously, I don't believe that. That's crazy. But you will experience it. So if you're going into the STEM field, just know it's going to happen and figure out how you're going to respond to it when it happens. And so for me, I'm a big fan of the middle finger and curse words, and that's my go-to. But if it's someone who is professional and has a lot of clout and they have power over me, you can't do that, right? So you have to figure out the proper way to say, I'm sorry, it sounds like you just called me a sexy beast. Did you mean to say that my brain was good? Like, is that what you meant? I don't know, I just don't understand what you just said. And so questions help a lot. just saying, I don't understand. Is that what you meant? You can't possibly mean to say that, right? I don't know. I'm just not. So that helps. But just letting it roll off your shoulder, because you cannot fight every battle. I will say, if it was ever any like racist or anything like that, or homophobic, anything like that, I don't let any of that fly ever. So if it's my teammate, my colleague, any of that, you stand up for each other. And so what I've noticed is when I fight their battles, they fight mine. And so that works for me. You know, just be an ally for everybody else, and then, you know, what goes around comes around. So that's my personal technique. I don't put up with stuff. When I do shows and I hear someone in the beginning of the audience, like I've had people do this, be like, ah ha ha, women can't be scientists. I literally turn to them and say, that's your one warning, you're out next time. Adults, I'm telling adults that, and saying I will not put up with that, and just, and this one guy's done it to me twice, by the way, and so, so it will happen, but I'm still here. It doesn't affect me. I'm still here. I still get to do cool stuff. But that one moment, I was kind of sad for a second, you know. So you'll be okay. Just fight through it.
What are some tips that you'd have for undergraduate students at UT specifically trying to get involved with research or outreach?
Okay, so it's networking. It's always networking, because you might not know who is really good, like a professor who's really good working with undergraduate students, but I might know that. And so the best thing you can do is get to know your teachers, get to know your professors, your instructors, and they will help you make those decisions. And so I love, personally, I have an intern. She's been working with me. She's a volunteer for a year, and then she did so well that we hired her on as an intern, and now this next year she's trying to get into research. And she wrote out her letter that she was sending to all the professors. Like, dear professor, you know, so-and-so, here's my spiel, I would love to come work for you. She gave that to me. I sat on it for 2 days, and then I rewrote it for her and then sent it back to her, and that's what she sent out, and she got an interview with every single one of them. So things like that, something that's so small, but just the way she presented herself in that email seemed a little bit underselling. You know, she didn't toot her own horn, and so I had to write it for her and be like, Jackie, like, oh, sorry, but, you know, you've got this. Like, you are a strong candidate. You can do this. And so we wrote the whole thing and sent it out, and she's going to do what? She's going to do great. So networking is huge. And with that comes sit in the third row, if not closer to your professor, because then you're forced to pay attention. I mean, look at you right now. It'd be really hard this close to me for you to glaze over and not have eye contact. You're kind of forced to engage here. But when you're in the back row, when you're in row 50 of a 500-person classroom, I'm not going to see you. Like, you could be asleep, and the ones who are, I'll clap and say, wake up. But we're not networking. I'm not going to get to know you. I don't know your name. I mean, so you need to talk to people and figure that out. The second thing, or the second part that would help you would be any type of pre-health organization or something like that. So if you want to be a doctor, it's really good to figure out in your pre-health organization who have other people worked for, because that professor is likely to take someone else, and they're going to take someone year after year after year, and they love pre-med students. So kind of figuring out what upperclassmen have done is the best way. So through the professor, through your instructors, through your organizations, and through people who are a little bit older than you. That would be my advice. And you can always just email people. I want to work for you. They might never respond. Who cares? You tried.
Have you always enjoyed your profession, or were there ever moments where it didn't seem like this awesome?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's hard parts. Letters of rec, I hate writing letters of rec. I hate it. I hate it. It's the worst part of my job, but I gotta do it. I have to do it. And I'm your best advocate. I want to do it, and I want to do a good job. And I think that's why I hate it, because it just stresses me out a little bit. But I don't like doing it. And so that part sucks. I also don't like talking to students who are failing. It's very hard for me, because I can see they're trying. They're crying in my office. You know, they're devastated. They're telling me all these things they're doing. And then I go, sounds like you're doing all the right steps, but for some reason it's not clicking. And unless I'm sitting there right with them, I can't figure out what's wrong. You know what I mean? So it's a problem I can't fix, and it just breaks my heart, especially when we start crying. And it happened earlier today, sorry, so it's just like fresh in my head, but I'll think about that at least through Monday. I mean, I will not be able to get that girl's face out of my head, and there's nothing I can do. So that's hard. What's really, really, really hard is when I have that student who is so smart, but they won't put in the effort. I mean, they could get an A with doing an hour of work per semester, probably, and they're failing my class because they don't want to purchase Reef because it's stupid, in their opinion. What? Like, what? It's so frustrating. So there's a lot of parts like that that's hard. I'm just a lecturer. I'm not a professor. And so professors are here, lecturers are here. And so professors run research groups, lecturers teach classes. And so we have a symbiotic relationship. We absolutely need each other. They don't want to teach the 500-person classroom, and I don't want to cure cancer. So between the two of us, we can do like one full job really, really well. With that said, because I'm just a lecturer, there are things I can't do. So if you take a UGS course, I can't teach that. I'm not qualified for it. Even though I have a PhD and my ratings are great and students tend to like me, I can't teach it because I'm not a professor. I'm a lecturer. And so that's really hard. I don't like that so much. I don't like being capped. That's the reason why I got a PhD. I did not want to be a bachelor's and say like, oh, you can't do this because you don't have a PhD. Like, I don't like being told no. I don't like it at all. So that's hard for me. Stuff like that is hard. So it's when I have to say something that's sad to a student, when I like can't have their back almost, if that makes sense, or I have to be kind of tough love, or when people say no, that I can't do something. I don't like that either. So that's it.
I guess I was also asking about like during your undergrad. Like, was there ever a moment
sure.
where you were like, why am I getting a chemistry degree?
Oh my
What
God.
you wanted to do?
Have you taken physical chemistry yet? You'll think that if you have to take P-Chem, or maybe not, but I didn't like it. I don't like P-Chem. I went to the University of Michigan, and it was something where the P-Chem classes were taught by international professors. That's how we ran our program, or they ran their program. So a lot of times there's a language barrier, and sometimes there's a language barrier plus a handwriting barrier. It's hard. It's hard because you gotta learn it yourself. But you're in charge of your own learning in college. I don't get to blame it on Professor so-and-so. He tried. He showed up every day. He did his job. I didn't learn it. That's on me. So, I mean, I did learn it, but it was one of those things you had to fight for it. So that's hard, but I will say the hardest part for me was taking physics 2. I just didn't like it. My brain doesn't do that. I don't like it. I had to study the most out of everything I've had to study for, out of everything. Like PhD stuff was physics 2. Getting that A in physics 2 was so hard. It was so hard. My brain doesn't work that way. That being said, if I went back now, I probably would be able to do it because I know how to study better, and I probably would have gotten a tutor and stuff like that, but I'll never forget that. I mean, for example, my roommates would know when there was a physics 2 exam because they would have one of those Smirnoff Ice drinky nasty things sitting on my desk ready for me to drink when I got back, and it was like, ugh, so terrible, but that was like an honor. Here you go. Here's some sugar. So gross. So yes, it's always hard. Everybody has to deal with hardship. It just depends on where your brain's at.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. No one has an easy trip. And if you have an easy time, you're not in the right college. You went too easy.
A segue question to that: if you
Yeah.
had to choose any other science profession to go into, which one would it be and why?
So you mean like instead of chemistry?
Right.
Ooh.
I know not physics.
Not physics. Okay, so I think bio is interesting, but it's always felt like to me a lot of memorization and not as much application as chemistry. And so that's what I've always been drawn to with chemistry. Physics is boring, so I don't like that. I probably would do some kind of like a geology, because there's chemistry in there. But honestly, I'd probably go engineering, if that's an option. I would totally do engineering, because I like to build stuff, put things together. If I really had to redo it, I'd probably do biomedical engineering just because I can get money there. And so that would be an option. But chemical engineering is boring to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because you're making like pipes and you're saying, okay, I'm going to put 7 tons of liquid through this pipe. How hot is it going to get? How fast is it going to flow?
It seems more like
It is. It absolutely is. It's mechanical engineering with like a flammable component. It's kind of neat. It is kind of neat though. But it's just, I like chemistry better. And you only take through like the first 2 years of chemistry for chem engineering. At least in my undergrad. I don't know if that's true here. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
What's some advice that you wish you had been told as an undergraduate student, or you would give undergraduate students?
Go to office hours. Go to office hours. At some point in your life, you're going to need letters of rec. Somehow. You're going to need them. And so the best letter of rec I can write, like I can write Jamarcus a very good quality letter of rec because he was in my web-based course, he was in my current course now, and you come to those lunches, you come to office hours, like I know you-ish, you know, enough that I could write you a quality letter. But like, I don't know you 3. I could not write you a very quality letter. I could say the grades say she's an okay, great, fantastic student, but that's where it ends. So if you go to office hours, at least with a 500-person class, I have a shot at knowing who you are, and I have a shot at writing you a quality letter. So on top of that, I would say, if you're asking someone in a position like me who has 500 to 1,000 students, send us a resume when you do your letter of rec as well. So give me some information about you. One of the best things that someone told me is that they have triplets as their younger sisters, and they are so patient because of that. And I thought, perfect. That's a beautiful thing that's unique. I can add a one sentence thing in there, and then it acts like I know her. You know what I mean? So it's a way to give it a little bit of credibility. And so little things like that go a long way. So that's part of it. I always say sit in the third row or closer. So it's office hours, third row or closer. Send a resume when you do your letter of rec. And I usually have a fourth one, but I'm blanking on it right now. I'll get back to you on that. But be engaged. You're paying for this. If you don't show up for class, like, that's money down the toilet somewhere. I'm grateful for it, but it's really not the point. I know chemistry. You need to know it. So. Oh, I remember it. Make friends outside of your major. That is one of the most important things you can do. So, for example, my best friend is a jewelry person. She's an artist, and so I would hang out with her friends sometimes, and it was great because not one of them wanted to talk to me about the chemistry exam. And you get a break, a real break. But if you hang out with your friends who are in the same class, it will always come up. Even if you're at a party and you're hanging out, it'll be like, that Diffie-Q equation was killing me. It just comes up. And so you don't get a break from it. Your brain really doesn't get to reset. And so I think it's incredibly valuable just to grow as a human, to get friends from another group. So get involved in intramural sports, something like that. I made friends with these weird soccer guys because I played co-ed intramural soccer with them for 4 years. We never hung out aside from that, but on the soccer field we were buddies, and it was really fun, and I had a great time. And then we played inner tube water polo the following year, which who knew that was a thing, but that was great. It's terrifying because you play with some people and you can like get stuck in your tube, but it was really fun. So that's my advice. Okay, sorry I interrupted somebody.
Anyone have any more questions?
How long do we have?
Well, this is like not even for like the project anymore, but you seem like actually like, really passionate about what you're doing. Like, how did? I guess like I say this because like even now as a freshman, I'm just like I really don't know what I'm doing with my life.
How could you?
Does it like ever like click and you see
Yes.
it, or you just kind of just keep on going and hope it works out?
Both. It happens. It's unique to each person. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had a fantastic nutso chemistry teacher who would run around and she lit stuff on fire and she was just goofy. She was just a goofball. But I was like, this is the best thing in the entire world. What happens now? Oh my gosh, an oxidation? Oh, tell me more. And it was just so cool to me, and I could never get over it. And so ever since I was a sophomore, since I was 15, literally 15 years ago, I knew I wanted to be a chemist. And so that's incredibly rare. Most people come into college and then switch majors. Like almost always. I would say probably 80% of people do that. It's very, very, very common. Unless your mom makes you do pre-med. Like that doesn't change. But so I would say for me, chemistry was always interesting. No matter what class I was in, I still wanted to learn about it. Even in my PChem classes where I didn't like the professor and I didn't feel like I was learning from him specifically, I still was able to go back and find the value in, okay, if I put these two sign functions together, what happens? Oh, energy! Okay, this is level 1s, now we have 2s, and you can all put it together. So for me, at the end of the day, I liked reading about it. I didn't mind studying as much. It's still studying. But for my physics class, I did not like reading about it. I did not care. I could not find the motivation to be interested in how fast the ball dropped and the angle of the roller coaster. I'm like, stays on the tracks, it's fine. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? So for me, that's what it was. I couldn't be interested. So whatever you're interested in, just keep following that. If you find a class that is nice, kind of, stick with that. And it's okay to take a second class and within 3 weeks be like, oh, just kidding, I'm dropping this, I don't want that. Or check it out, you might love it. Okay. I have a friend from high school who turned out, her parents were loaded. She didn't even need a college degree if she didn't want to. But she started taking classes and ended up as I'm going to mess this up, but it's like a paper engineer or something. And so now she works at a box plant and she figures out how to get paper together to make boxes, and then she tests the strength of boxes, and she loves the boxes. And this girl has all the money in the world, and she's in her steel-toed boots marching out there testing boxes because she likes it and likes reading about it and thought it was cool. And be like, oh, so if you use this paper, you can really squish it, or this, you can, But she talks about boxes the way I talk about chemistry. So there's got to be, for everybody, there's a something.
Okay.
So if you like, what's your major now?
Pre-med with international relations and global studies. But I don't really know if I like the pre-med as much as my parents do. So,
But you're an adult now,
I know.
and that's part of this. It's really
I also
hard,
don't want
isn't
to be
it?
unemployed when I get out of college, so.
But international studies, global relations, that's UN. That's
Yeah.
big. I mean, if you can be drug-free, you can be all completely with the government and do awesome stuff. But they are real sticklers about drugs. And so I tell all my freshmen that because it's usually a 3-year thing. So you need to make sure drugs are out of your system for 3 years before you try to apply for that. Like FBI, stuff like that.
What do you mean 3-year thing? Like it's on your
They'll
record?
test you. No, they'll test you. And so they can
Drugs
see
stay in
it.
your body for 3 years?
Hair, yeah, it depends. Certain ones are worse. Like weeds out real fast. Within like 20 days. Depends on how much you drink water, I should say, and how much you exercise because it sweats out a lot of it. But stuff like LSD, and certain ones. I'm not a really big drug person, so I don't actually know. But there's certain ones that stick in you, and your hair gives you away. And it's not here. So like if you shave your head, remember when Britney Spears? Were you guys around for that when she shaved her head?
Oh.
That was it. She did all these drugs, and she was having custody battles with her kids, so she wanted to get rid of her roots. But the next day, your hair grows in. It's not. You'd have to like nair your head, like wax your head, get the roots out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's still, you have to think about what grows hair are proteins that are in your body that have been in your body.
Oh, so that was a failed attempt.
It's a failed attempt. It's so dumb. And we're all sitting, the rest of us who understand how drug tests go, we're like, what are you doing? Now you're bald and failing drug test. So that's the one thing I like to point out to my freshmen, just because, I mean, I know the FBI is one of the strictest ones. It has to be 3 years. And so you're in college, you experiment. So people who have that on their radar, I just want to put that out there and tell your friends stuff like that. But it's just one of those things where, you know, all of a sudden you're a senior and you think, oh, this is cool, I figured it out. It's like, well, remember how you did, acid 2 years ago? Just keep that in the back of your brain. That's all. But like drinking, they're fine with. So, isn't that weird?
Did you have any kind of backup for if you didn't do chemistry
Nope.
or if you? Okay.
But I also was getting A's in my chemistry classes. So the second I would not be getting an A in a chemistry class, I would have reevaluated. So if you're in your major and you're not getting A's and it's not easy for you and it's not interesting to you, that's not your major.
Yeah.
It's not. That's someone else's major. And so a lot of people come in pre-med because mom says you gotta be pre-med. It happens all the time. But now you're 18-ish probably, and you're an adult now. And so it's cool that mom's paying for it, and maybe, but you have to make sure that what you're gonna do once you're 22 and out of here for the rest of your life, you can't do that to make your parents happy.
Yeah.
You absolutely cannot. I have a friend who is he was forced to be a doctor. The girls were forced to be teachers. Like, it was from the beginning. You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be teachers, just from the beginning. And so he hates it because he hates people. And so he ends up he hates people. And so now he works in a pathology lab, and he's behind the scenes, and he can do tests on it, but he wishes he got a PhD and did research because that's what he likes. But he was forced into med school. But he doesn't like people. He doesn't like helping people. But he likes diagnosing diseases. So that worked for him. So he found one spot.
Yeah.
Because mom and dad determined. And how terrible, too. Like, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a teacher.
I wouldn't have listened.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Definitely.
But
not.
it depends on how you're raised. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys listen to any podcasts or anything, but the one I'm listening to right now is of an Asian girl with Asian parents, and they basically treated her like a tiny child her whole life, all the way through 24, locked her in these rooms, like couldn't let her out, she couldn't have a boyfriend. Still at 24! You're an adult now. At 24, you can't do that. Mom and dad don't want you. That's not success. And so that's the one thing that I think is one of the most important things. You can't make mom and dad happy forever. You have to do it you. And the reason you're probably doing international studies and global whatevers is because you like it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you like your classes?
Yes. I came as a biology, or I applied as a biology major and got in, and then I was like, I'm not gonna like these classes. Let me just do that and pre-med. And now I'm like, maybe I should just drop pre-med.
I'm not paying for your degree, so I'm not going to say do it, but I would encourage you, because right then, when you talked about it, your face turned majorly. You were super happy, and then you went into super not happy. Like me, resting bitch face. No good. So you can tell. You already know. So now you just have to figure out how to make it work for you.
Okay.
She did not want to hear that.
But you knew it. I'm not telling you. That's the thing. I'm not telling you anything
Yeah,
you don't know. I'm just telling you what your face says. So that I can do.
Like a talking mirror.
Yeah, exactly. But I would, before you talk to parents and stress them out and do all that, you talk to your professors first. You know, I'm interested in this. Go to your global studies or, you know, whichever, whoever's best. And you can talk to them. Go to them first. Tell them your predicament and say, now what are my career obligations? You know, what are my options here? And see if that's something you would be happy doing. And then get yourself on a career path so when you go home, it's not like, Mom, I'm thinking about not being a doctor. It's, Mom, I want to do this. I'm going to go to this. I'm going to do this degree. I'm going to do da-da-da-da-da. And they'll be like, oh, whoa, who are you? Who is this, you know? So, and I'm saying Mom, but Grandma, you know, whoever, whatever, Dad, whatever. Or FAFSA, whoever's paying for it. So, but that's, you know, it's, you have to be happy with your major.
Yeah.
You have to. It's only going to be you. After 22 plus, it's only going to be you. And med school, I mean, think about that. If you don't want to be in med school, you're going to fail miserably because you're not going to be interested in it. Every single day after class, you have to go home and memorize what they did in order to even have a shot at doing the next day. So that's your life for 3+ years. If you don't want that, don't do that. Way too cute and young to waste your time in med school if you don't want to be in med school. Oh, ignore that.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for like, because like my thing is I've always wanted, ever since I was like 8, I've wanted to be a doctor. Like that's my dream. I want to do
Awesome.
trauma surgery. Like that's my thing. But like getting through undergraduate is like, oh my God, why am I here? Like I hate I hate almost every day of it right now. Do you have any advice
Freshman?
for like, yeah, but I'll be a junior next year, so I kind of only have 2 years. But
Okay.
do you have any advice for kind of just getting through the, oh my God, I don't want to be here classes?
Yeah, find friends. Find friends that get through it. Sorry, you can hang up on that person if that bugs you. There's an ignore or answer. Just hit ignore. So I would encourage you to find friends in the class that you can gripe about it with them. There are going to be these classes. It just happens. I had to take History of the American Family. Yeah,
Sounds horrible.
it was terrible. And then, but there were people who loved it. Like, absolutely loved the class. She was such a well-known instructor. There's a class here that is something about the Bible that apparently they have a fantastic pick the class that you can tolerate the most. So I was super excited to take my women's studies class because I needed some flag of something. Because that's not my thing. And I am very not like, oh, pro-feminism. Like, girls, boys equal, we're fine. Like, that's done. That's all I need for that. But for me, that class was so weird. And there were a lot of interesting opinions. And, I mean, there was an entire 2-hour discussion. 2 hours, okay? Where the whole fight was whether or not it was nice or not nice for a man to open a door for a woman. 2 hours on this. And I'm sitting here going, what? Like, who cares? If you don't want a man who's going to open the door for you, then don't get that man. Or, you know, that's my opinion. Or if you're dating someone you want him to open the door, say, hey, I'd appreciate it if you'd open the door. Done. Like, done, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm very cut and dry when it comes to that. But so I loved that class because I would sit there and be like, these people are nuts. And I thought it was so funny. And you had to participate once a class, and so I'd always be like, yeah, I agree with that, even though I didn't, and I would just sit there and listen and be like, this is awesome. But so that worked for me. I had to have a flag of a class that I knew I wasn't going to be into. It had to be like very much like, you know, not fact-based, which is hard for me. And so I thought women's studies, and then there was like a gender studies that was an interesting one too, but I couldn't get into. And then also I took modern dance. I needed I can't even remember what flag that was, but ballet and modern dance fit it, and so I did it, and I was terrible, but they only cared that you tried, and so I was and the guy was always yelling at me, he's like, well, you've got to let go of your head, and I was like, well, how do I look in the mirror if my head is like, oh, he's like, no, it's like this. I couldn't do it, but I still got an A in the class because I was out there and like we had to wear this weird costume one time and I'm just frolicking across. Everyone was so embarrassed. I was like, Hook, you gotta jump across the stage to get your A. I will jump for an A, and like, it was fine. But that's how you do it. You have to find something that you can tolerate, and the biggest thing is find a professor who has good reviews. Because someone who has good reviews probably cares about their class, and they're gonna just make it as interesting as they can be. Like, I don't think you particularly enjoy chemistry. Does that seem okay? Like a good sentence? But I think I try to make it a little bit more interesting for you than other professors do. And so for me, my favorite students are the ones who hate it, that I can be like, yeah, but isn't this cool? Like, what about this thing? Now look how a smartphone works. Now you can tweet because of this. Like, just stuff like that is cool to me. So you have to figure out who can do that for you. So Rate My Professor is good. There's another one. What's the other one? There's another eval one. Rate My Professor, and it used to be My
Yeah,
EDU, but I think that's
Blackboard
broken now. It doesn't
Or
work.
something. Yeah.
What is it?
It's like Blackboard now or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Blue
Or is it Coopers or something?
No, Coopers is where you get old exams. That's a good one. You need to know that one. They block us. Like, I can't even get access to Coopers.
Maybe there's another
They like
review
upload
site.
all the old tests.
Yeah, you should
The
know about
class
Coopers.
one?
Someone, you gotta help her out. Teach her about Coopers.
They have all the chem tests are on there
Mhm.
and bio tests.
They practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's what you should be studying before your exam, the day or two before. Coopers, Koofers.
Yeah, well, you don't
Okay.
need it for biology though. You don't need
Oh.
it for practice. But chemistry.
Chemistry.
Yeah.
You want it for chemistry.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No?
Question no.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in, guys.
Well,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Guzman,
Yeah.
You're definitely one of the reasons why we start here changes the world.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate you taking the time
That's
to
my
talk to
slogan.
us.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
Thank you so
I
much.
believe it.
Everyone else they didn't really know you, and I'm like, gosh, this is Dr. B. It'll be okay.
It'll be okay.
So-
Sorry about the scheduling. It sounded like we were all over the place, so I'm glad this worked out for most of you, I think. So, awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Thanks,
Appreciate
guys. And let me know if you need anything else, or like if audio doesn't work, we can do it again.
When is your next, your cinema, was it? What are you doing?
Fun with
The
Kim?
fun with chem.
Yeah, that.
Oh, tonight, actually.